how did he not know that this was going to happen? Everyone who's famous gets their videos chopped up. He had to have some sense that this was going to happen. And the second criticism is from people who say, wasn't this his business model? You know, there was The Guardian. I pulled a quote from The Guardian, and it says, his rapid surge to fame was not by chance. Evidence obtained by The Observer shows that followers of Tate are being told to flood social media with videos of him choosing the most controversial clips in order to achieve maximum views and engagement. So the criticism is that, you know, through Hustler University and through the business model that he established, one of the incentives was for these affiliates to repost content. So how did he not see that this was going to happen? What is your reaction to that?
Yeah, I once again, that's just one of the things I was critical of him on my show yesterday was the guys who are the Tate Army are basically his cam girls, more or less. I've heard it put that way. Now, if you don't know anything about their history, that's how they sort of came up in the business. Prior to OnlyFans, they were guys who ran cam girls, and pretty much they skimmed off the top. And they would put the girls out there. Sometimes they would be the ones sort of doing the hustling behind the scenes. It's not unlike most OnlyFans like the most popular OnlyFans girls today are not running their own channel. It's the guy behind them that's helping them sort of promote this, and she's the talent that's on the screen. They were doing that long before there was an OnlyFans, and so this model is sort of like, well, we're going to have other. It's not. And I know Patrick Bet-David gets kind of bristles at this. It's not multi-level marketing; it's affiliate marketing. So you join Hustlers University for $50 a month, okay? And as a benefit of that, if you're not saying you have to, but if you repost, you start a new channel that it's an unaffiliated channel with Tate's on YouTube, and you rebroadcast or you do derivative work of those broadcasts that they have, then you will get kickbacks as a result of that. It'll pay for itself, and there's a sort of a financial incentive for his fans to go and produce this stuff, and that's really how he owned the algorithm on YouTube. He's the first guy that I know who has successfully gamed the YouTube algorithm by essentially flooding the channels, or flooding YouTube with his followers. And so and of course this was sort of a downstream thing. So if they were part of the university, that he was getting that money from these guys, but then as a result they were getting affiliate dollars by rebroadcasting this stuff, and that's how it worked for these guys. Now the problem with that, of course, is that you draw a lot of attention to yourself, and you know what happens then is you get like Dave Portnoy like calling you, and you get like Tucker Carlson calling you, and suddenly now you can't go on YouTube without seeing something in your impressions about Andrew Tate. That's how people know this. That's why high school teachers are complaining about their middle school and high school kids are like repeating the same kind of things that they hear in a Andrew Tate buzz clip, which is, by the way, a 30-second, 45-second buzz clip on Twitter, on TikTok. So the same thing that you can't, it's kind of hard to complain about the business model of how you're taken out of context in a 30-second buzz clip, when at the same time that's your marketing strategy through the guys who are rebroadcasting your own material in the form of 30-second, 45-second, TikTok videos. So now, as a result, he is the most Googled guy on planet Earth. People who would never have even known him or heard his name before want to talk to him. I'm actually surprised he hasn't been on Joe Rogan yet. Yeah. But that's pretty much how it worked, and that's how he gamed that algorithm. And I had a discussion not too long ago with, I think it was Adam and Patrick. I said the way that he has managed to do this is, he has, like I said, he's owns the algorithm, and he's the first guy that has ever like learned how to get into the impressions and work his way up through that by getting a mass of people to sort of push his material. I compared it to this. I don't know if you remember this. Back in 2021, there's a group, I think it was a Reddit group or a user group of investors. And what they did was they put all their money into like GameStop, and they put their money into AMC theaters back then, so that they could sort of screw over the Wall Street big guys who knew that those stocks were going to take a hit. And so they were putting put options against it. So all these guys got together and said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to buy up GameStop, and we're going to buy up AMC theaters right now. And so we can stick it to these Wall Street guys. And some guys made a lot of money off of it. But what they had done is they played by the rules. They played successfully by the rules, and they got enough people to go and buy those stocks to offset the Wall Street guys who are betting against those two stocks. It's very much the same kind of dynamic. You get enough guys to get on board to say, okay, guys, get together here. We got 100,000 dudes. We're gonna rebroadcast Tate and keep going, and that's how we're gonna own the algorithm. They're still playing by YouTube's rules,
right?
But now YouTube says no. You don't get to those. You figured out the code. You broke the code, right? You figured out the code in the matrix and the algorithm, but now we don't want you to do that anymore. And that's why TikTok bans him and all of his sub accounts and all the people who are rebroadcasting his material, because it's that dangerous. It's that he's the most dangerous man. He's the number one. Yeah, he's on the FBI's most wanted list as a result of simply putting out this message out there. It would be different if it was something that was like seditious, or it was something that was like pro, conservative thought or whatever. But it's not. It's it's essentially red pill material. It's essentially the manosphere, and that's what they're threatened by.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And I think one of the, just having gone through media myself, I remember when I first started doing television, I really was thinking about everything I was saying very carefully, kind of learning what it meant to have an audience. And that evolved. And one of the takeaways for me was that I don't know if he was ready for it to blow up so big and so fast. I mean, it's too much for many to even think about, like, how does this just all of a sudden happen? And I don't know that he was necessarily ready for what was coming his way, because there's a lot of people that wanted to capitalize. They wanted to make money off of the fact that he was rising. And then there's a lot of people who really stay attuned to someone who is on the rise. And, a lot was brought up about the Big Brother years and that video that popped up that wound up being like a kink video where there were two consenting adults, but it rubbed people the wrong way. And that wound up being why he was dismissed. And I said, he wasn't banned then. Why wasn't he banned then? Because he was really nobody, right? He's being banned now because this is a guy who does have an army behind him, has a lot of guys that agree with his content, has a lot of people that have listened to the long form interviews, and they're not just listening exclusively to these little sound bites. And now he's a problem I think he's a threat to a lot of movements. He's a threat to the modern way of living. He's a threat to modern feminism. He's a threat to a lot of institutions that, want to preserve their right to ban and their right to censor. And this guy's just out there saying anything, So I think he's a threat to a lot of the status quo in many respects. I want to get to a part of this where he talks a little bit about.
Can I throw one more thing out here really quick? Because this will put a period to that whole section right there.
Yeah.
When I was doing my show yesterday, I usually start with sort of intro videos and I breakdowns. One of the videos I showed yesterday was this guy, and I don't know who the guy's channel was, so I apologize. The guy was going around Central Park, and he had his cell phone. And he was asking random, like, young people, Gen Z people, and old, and maybe slightly older, what they thought of Andrew Tate. And so he was going to ask these girls. He was asking, the guys that were with other girls, and damn near every one of them, except for the last dude, just hated him. And every single point that they brought up about like why they didn't like him, and to the point where they like really wanted to punch him or hurt him in some way. The reason why they had come up with this is because they had seen those 30-second buzz clips. That's all their impression of him was, and that's all it took for this guy who's going around Central Park, doing these on the street kind of videos and asking these people, and that's all it took to get to a level of anger and a level of, to get that outrage out of these young people who had probably only seen those 30-second buzz clips of him talking about whatever. They had never gone into like the long form videos, like when he did the show with Sean Reynolds and some other stuff as well. But that's that right there. Like after I put that up, I go, man, that's actually pretty scary.
Well, yeah. And it's indicative of the times, right? As you were saying before, I mean, I don't think we're in times where people are inquisitive, where they're curious. They're lazy. People are lazy, and they look and they want to be mad all the time. Someone's always the enemy. They'd rather get upset and pound and scream than have a conversation. So, he's also operating at a time when people have no attention span, when all these mediums are active that edit and the sound bites, and it's not a great time for someone who does have controversial things to say, but really benefits from a long form interview, which he does, because I've watched them and I see how I really looked, and I even tried to crop some and said, wow, well, if I took just this and this, I would have this reaction, but if I hear all of this, I still disagree, but it's a very different reaction than what I would have had. So, but it takes effort, right? Not everyone's going to sit here and do what I just did because they don't care. They'd rather just watch 30 seconds, be mad, and go on with their day, right? To the next thing they can be mad about. So I want to pull something.
It's what I call this in the past, their outrage brokership. That's
yes.
what it is.
I come from politics. Rollo, everyone's outraged. And usually you know why? You know why they're outraged in politics? Because they watch cable news. And cable news operates in the same exact way. I worked in it. You got 3 minutes. You got 3 guests. You're all trying to get a word in. Nobody accomplishes anything, and then everyone leaves angry. It's a business model. It is a business model, and it's successful for a lot of these places. If you like the short clip, you can catch another one here, or you can catch the full episode right here.